Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. This is the final 2020 recap video and then we're done. Today we are talking about the books I read in 2022. Also, I should probably mention I did chop off my hair. I guess you guys can't really maybe see that much because I am wearing a black top and the lighting isn't great because it is 5 o'clock. We need to the end of the day to film this. Yeah, I did cut my hair short the same week that I quit my job. Yeah, that's a big update for you guys. I quit my job. I left. I'm not going to talk about why on here because that is personal. But yes, for now, I am just, taking the time to look for something new, and now I have more time for things like YouTube and my blog. Also, I'm testing out the Benefit tint on my lips right now. Let me know how you think they look. I just put it on a few minutes before, so it's very bright and stuff. Let's get into it. I'm gonna try and not talk too much about all of the books because I got a lot. Also, sorry if you hear the vacuum. My brother is vacuuming right now. We're talking about all of the books that I read last year. I'm gonna link my blog post down below. That is basically the written version of this video. It links all of my individual reviews of the books. So you want to read a little bit more about how I felt on each individual book, you can do that. I'm gonna try and keep it really brief because otherwise we're gonna be here forever. So my goal last year was 20 books. I read 18, so just too shy of the goal. Not bad. I obviously would have loved to hit my goal, but I'll take it. Too short isn't too bad. I just want to mention as well, if you are new to this, I did do a version of this last year, or if you haven't read any of my book review blog posts before, I like to rate series together. So while I've read 18 books, we have 15 entries into this ranking list. I like to rate series as a whole because realistically, you're not going to read one book out of the series. It's either I think you should read the series or you shouldn't. So starting off at the bottom at number 15, I have the Order of Darkness series. Technically, I read the 3rd, 4th, and 5th book in 2022. I read the first one in 2021. But they are 4 books in the series. They are at number 15 because I gave this series 2 stars and I ended up not finishing the last book. And I think that says everything, that if I quit halfway through the series, I clearly didn't like it. The series is also not finished and it came out quite a few years ago, so I think that also says a lot that it wasn't good, so the author didn't even bother finishing the series, or the publisher didn't pick it up. My issue was that the series was slow, predictable, and all of the characters were one-dimensional, so would not recommend. Okay, at number 14 we have Normal People. This might come as a shock to some people because this book is quite highly rated. It was really hyped up online. It has won quite a few awards as well. Like on the back, it literally has all the stuff that it was nominated for, but I didn't like it. So this book is about Marianne and Connell. They form this strange connection and it follows their lives through the last few years of high school into university. This is a literary fiction and I have decided I don't really like that genre. I just find that every single time I read literary fiction, I don't end up enjoying the book, and I'm at the point in my life where I want to enjoy what I'm reading, and I didn't enjoy this book. I didn't like the characters. They always did stupid things, and I would have hope that they wouldn't do something stupid, and then they did something stupid. I found it depressing, I found it boring, I found it frustrating, and yes, there is literary merit to this book. I could see this being really great if you want to study a book for school or something like that, but as an actual book to read, I did not enjoy it, and that's why it's near the bottom of this list. Okay, next up we have The Revolution of Sabine. This is a YA historical fiction, and I read this right at the end of the year. I would say this kind of toes a line in between young readers and young adults, so much younger than me. It's not that it's a bad book, it's just not what I want in a book. It's just a little bit too simple. The story is about Sabine. She is an aristocrat, and she meets Benjamin Franklin, and then she kind of learns about classism, kind of the ideologies of the American and soon to be French Revolution. I know about these time periods a bit. I have like studied them a little bit, so I find that it was very simple and watered down version of these ideas, which obviously is good for younger readers, but you know, since I'm older, I just want a little bit more. Like I said, it's not a bad book per se, but for me, I didn't enjoy it a ton, so that's why I gave it 3 stars. Another 3-star book, and at number 12 we have the Bewitching season. This has a really cool premise. This is about 2 twin sisters, Penelope and Persephone. They are witches, but it's a secret, and they are in early Victorian area. Is it technically Regent or Victorian? I'm not sure when they like switch over, but it's during that time. They're the same age as Queen Victoria. That's kind of one of the plot points. Anyways, so it has a really cool premise because there are these 2 twin teenage witches, and right as they're about to come out, their governess disappears and they have to like try and find her. So that's a really cool premise, right? Except for I found that it focused too much on the like teenage melodrama of the season and not enough about the magic and the kidnapping. It was just too much melodrama, and it was like that cringy melodrama too, that like miscommunication that often happens in teen novels. It's not necessarily bad, just like not my cup of tea, which is why I gave it 3 stars. There is a sequel to this book, but I just have so many other books on my shelf that I'm not gonna bother reading the sequel. Okay, in at number 11 we have the 12 Topsy-Turvy Very Messy Days of Christmas. This is such a long title. It was not fun to type it out when I was writing all of my reviews. This is a Christmas book. I got 2 Christmas books on this list. My mom bought this one because she's a big James Patterson fan. It's a very unique story. Basically, it's about the Sullivan family, dad and 2 kids. They haven't really had a normal Christmas since the wife and mother passed away, and then this Christmas that the book is set in, they receive gifts related to the 12 days of Christmas. It's a very like family friendly book, so I'm not necessarily the target audience for it. I think this would be so fun as like a family listening to this audiobook if you're like traveling at Christmas type of thing, but for me it was like, it was okay. The story is really unique, the voice is really great, like the narrator's voice is really great. Just like the humor was a little kiddish and it was a little too long. Even though it was a short book, I think it could have been condensed even more. But yes, I gave this 3.5 stars, and this is book number 11. Into the top 10 we have Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. I was really excited to read this because Paula Hawkins' other book, The Girl on the Train, was really good. I really enjoyed that book. This is another psychological thriller mystery. It's about like 2 suicides happen in this river in a small town within a year, and it kind of goes from there. It had a really good atmosphere, like it really felt like I was in this like small town in the English countryside, which was pretty good, and the writing itself was very nice. I felt like there was too many points of view. It kind of was really confusing for like the first half of the book, remembering who was who, and the pacing was a little off. Like it was just really slow, and there was like no suspense for like most of the novel until like the last quarter, and then it was like everything was happening. So it had the potential to be good, but it wasn't as good as Paula Hawkins' other book, so it was a little disappointing. But I gave this 3.5 stars. Okay, up next we have the only other series I read this year. Really didn't read a lot of series, mainly individual books. I have a habit of buying the first book in a series, so if I like the series I have to buy like the rest of the book in the series. I was trying not to spend a lot of money on books, even though I did buy quite a few new books here. But anyways, that was my rationale. This year I want to try and be better and read more series because I do have a lot. Anyways, long ramble to say this is the only other series I have. This is the Remnant Chronicles, and the first book is The Kiss of Deception. If you are on the online book talk community, a lot of people were talking about the Dance of Thieves duology, which is a sequel series to this series. So I had the first one on my bookshelves already for quite some time. I actually have older versions, like this book here. I don't know if you can see it very well, But you can see here that this is the newer cover and this is the cover that I have. So anyways, I've had this book for quite some time on my bookshelf and decided to finally read this series. It had a really good premise. It's about this princess Leah, which is quite funny to read. A character who has the same name as you, but she spells hers differently. She spells hers L-I-A and I'm L-E-A. Anyways, she is basically this princess who runs away because she doesn't want to get married. And then the prince that she was going to marry and this assassin go after her. And we meet these people, but we don't know who is who until the end of the book. So that was like really cool to read and stuff. So yeah, I enjoyed that. It was a unique premise, which, you know, sometimes it's hard to find in fantasy novels. I also appreciate that there was a little bit of like a war battle in this series. It wasn't long and dragged out, because that sometimes is my issue with fantasy novels, that I don't like reading about war and I hate when it's really long. So I appreciate that it wasn't really long and dragged out. That being said, the second book I found was pretty dragging and slow. I didn't love it. And yeah, I just found that while the series was good, it doesn't necessarily stick out in my brain compared to some of the other fantasy series, especially YA fantasy series that I've read over the past few years. So it was good, but it wasn't great. And this comes in at number 9. And that was my last 3.5-star book. Now we're moving into 4-star books. We have Reminders of Him. Like a lot of people, I have seen Colleen Hoover all over online. It's actually funny. I'll take a second to tell the story. So if you guys don't know, I'm on book TikTok a lot. I have been for quite some time now. It's kind of what got me back into reading. But my mother is also an avid reader, and she reads the paper, and she kept on seeing Colleen Hoover's name. She kind of like shot out of nowhere onto all the bestseller list. So my mom asked me like, oh, have you heard about her? And I was like, yeah, like I've heard really good things. I have been interested in reading her books. So my mom went out and bought like 4 of her books. And then she gave me another 2. No, she gave me 1 for Christmas and I bought 1 myself. So I have 6 of her books now. I've read 2 already. I have 4 more to read. So yeah, you'll be seeing some Colleen Hoover from me in 2023. This is the first one I read. This is Reminders of Him, which is so funny for me to read this first because a lot of people say this is quite different compared to some of her other novels. This is about Kenna. She has been in prison for 5 years and then she got released and she's trying to reconnect with her daughter, and then she meets this guy Ledger who has this connection to her daughter and her daughter's family, and you know, they start a romance. So I thought this was a good book, but it wasn't necessarily like a standout to me. I think mainly just because I didn't grow a strong attachment to either of the main characters. I find like I really like a book when I really like the characters in it, and I don't know, I just didn't feel that strong depth to either of the characters. I think it was a really interesting situation, and Colleen Hoover had presented a lot of nuance with this situation. But yeah, it was a good book. It wasn't necessarily like my favorite book ever, and that's why it's kind of 8, kind of right in the middle. So yeah, I gave this 4 stars. In number 7, we have The Guest List. This is thriller, mystery. As you can see, this is on Reese Witherspoon's book club. It's been kind of one of the big mystery books of the last little while. I've heard a lot of good things about it, so I was very excited to read about it. This is very atmospheric, which I love. It's basically about this like high profile wedding that happens on this remote island off the coast of Ireland. And then this like, yeah, they basically just say that like everyone has a motive and someone won't leave this wedding alive. So there is a murder that happens. So this had multiple points of view, but unlike Into the Water, I didn't find it confusing. There wasn't a lot and it was like pretty easy to follow. And I think all of the individual storylines of all of the characters are pretty probable. I think the fact that all of these things would happen to a small group of people is a little improbable, but I mean, it is fiction. My only gripe is that I prefer a classic whodunit. I like to know what happened, who the victim is, kind of like right near the beginning. That way, as the story goes on, you try and guess what happened. In this book, you don't know the victim and the crime until the very end of the book, and it's kind of almost within a chapter that you find out who did it and who it happened to, which I'll give it credit is like different than the classic whodunit. The only issue is I found that it didn't necessarily draw me in because I didn't know what was going on. That was my whole entire thing. Personal preference. My friend read this book and she really enjoyed it, and I still liked it. Like, it's number 7. I gave it 4 stars, but yeah, that's just my thing. Kind of wish I knew what had happened earlier, and I think I would have been more engaged. The next 6 novels are all romance books, so I think it's safe to say that I have turned into a romance girly. They're just my favorite. And at number 6 we have The Love Hypothesis. This was a very, very hyped up book, and I was like, I need to know what the hype is all about. Basically, the story is about Olive, who is a PhD candidate, and then she starts this like fake dating with a professor at her school, Adam. Anyways, they start this whole entire fake dating scheme. I do enjoy fake dating. I do like that trope, but I don't like the miscommunication trope. So that was kind of annoying. One of the things I didn't really like a lot about this book. I also wasn't a huge fan of Olive, the main character. So, you know, like I mentioned earlier, if I don't love the characters, it makes it a little harder to love the book. Also, this was marketed as like a very like spicy book, and there wasn't a ton of spice. I was kind of surprised. There was some, and don't get me wrong, I loved the relationship between Olive and Adam. Like, even though I didn't really love Olive, I loved their relationship, and the banter that the two had was really fun. I also loved the setting. This was like in an academic sciencey setting, which was really cool and unique. Ali Hazelwood has come out with a bunch of other novels since, all in the academic setting, which is really cool, I think, for people in STEM to be able to see that representation. But yes, I like this book. I didn't love this book, but I think it was a really fun read. I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Cracking into the top 5, we have my second Colleen Hoover book. This is November 9th. This is about Fallon and Ben. They meet one day on November 9th, and then they start this relationship, and they meet every single year on only the one day of the year. This is an instant love. That's kind of like the trope, and I'm not a huge fan of instant love, so it took me a little bit of time to get into the relationship, but this is a highly bingeable book. The book is kind of divided into sections for every single year, so I found myself reading like one of the years in one sitting. Like, I went through this book pretty quick, I think in a week, and there is a plot twist, and Colleen Hoover is known for her plot twist, and it was so good. It really made the book, like, for me, like, the plot twist was so good. I didn't see it coming, but like reflecting back, it made sense, which is like what I think the perfect plot twist is. So yeah, if you like a good plot twist, you should definitely check out this book. I know I said that I rate series together, but I decided to do the Bellinger sisters books individually, just because they kind of did feel like more individual books. Like, they are technically a duology, but because it's a different set of characters, I felt like it was different enough for me to rate them differently. I also did rate them different ratings. This only got 4 stars versus the other one got 5 stars, so that's why I wanted to talk about them separately. So yes, this is the sequel to It Happened One Summer, which I will talk about coming up. It's about the other main character's sister and then her love interest. This is Friends to Lovers, which I do enjoy, but there is miscommunication in this book, which also drove me crazy. Hannah has way more patience than me. If I was her, I would have kicked this boy to the curb a long time ago. That being said, I did enjoy their friendship. The character development is so good in between 2 Tessa Bailey's books. So if you like character development, you'll really like these books. And that's a lot from me, because I've mentioned this before, I'm usually more of a plot driven person, but I really enjoy these books because even though they're character driven, there's still plot going on and moving, which I really do enjoy. Obviously, I'm going to compare the two to each other, and I didn't like this one as much as the first book, but it still was really good, fun, summary read. Like, I got through it so quick. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Moving in, my top 3 books are all 5-star books. I love how nicely that lined up. You might think I'm a little silly, but I gave A Christmas Book 5 out of 5 stars and made it book number 3 on my list. This is A Merry Little Meet Cute. This is by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. I love this book. I am a huge fan of cheesy Hallmark Network Christmas movies. I eat that shit up. So this is that, but it's also self-aware, but it's also a spicy romance novel. It's so good. So basically, this is a R-rated book, by the way, because this is about Bea and Nolan. Bea is a porn star and Nolan is an ex-boy band bad boy. Tongue twister there. They are filming one of these like cheesy Hallmark movies together. So it's really fun to see the like behind the scenes of like filming a movie. And I love the relationship in between the two characters. Even though it's a little bit long, it was paced really well and I really did enjoy it. It was a little predictable, but at the holidays, you just want something lighthearted and fun, and this was definitely it. Like I mentioned, we have It Happened One Summer. This is book number 2 for me. This was so much fun. So much fun. I read this in Vancouver, and it was the perfect book to read there because this is set in the Pacific Northwest during the summer. It was just the right vibes. And this is about Piper. She is a socialite who gets exiled to the small town in the Pacific Northwest. Her character is based off of, what's it called? The girl from Schitt's Creek. I've never watched it before, but if you like Schitt's Creek, she's kind of based off of that main female character. Anyways, while she's there, she meets Brendan, who is a ship captain. And it was just so fun. Once again, like I said, the character development was so good in this novel. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of Piper at the beginning, but then by the end, I loved her. And even though it was character driven, there was still stuff that was happening throughout the novel. It was a little predictable, but I'm fine with predictability when I like the characters because then I want what I predicted to happen. You know what I mean? This is just fun, lighthearted, a perfect summer read in my eyes. It was just so good. My brother just went in the shower, if you can hear that in the background. And the final book is People We Meet on Vacation. This was so good, and the reason why it's my number 1 book is because I happy cried. Okay guys, I shed tears of happiness at the end of this book. Of course I had to make this my number 1 book. It was so good. I think that's a sign that the book is really, really good, that I connected so much to the characters that when things work out for them, I'm crying for happiness. This is about Alex and Poppy. They basically are friends and then they go on vacation once every single year until something happens, and then they don't go on vacation for a couple of years and then they go on another one. So this is kind of like a back and forth storyline in between the past and the present. I love Poppy. I see so much of myself in her, which is why I think I love this novel so much. And I also love the romance. Like, this is like what I want in life as a romance, is this relationship. Yeah, I related to the character so much. The character development was great, but also the plot was so fun because they go on vacation. So you're reading about all these really fun trips that they had. That was like so cool to read. And it was just, there was some tension, a little bit of spice, but just like a lot of fun. And yeah, if there's one book I think you should read out of all of them, it's this one. I actually picked up Emily Henry's other book, Book Lovers, because I saw that it was the number 1 romance novel for last year. So, and I know a lot of people put it on their top book of 2022. So I'm really excited to read it since I loved this one so much. And yeah, guys, that is it. That is all the books I've read in 2022. This year, we're trying to read 20 books again. I'm hoping to really hit that target. We're going strong. I'm already on book number 2, and yeah, please let me know down in the comments what your favorite book was that you read last year, because I'm always open to suggestions of what I should read, always looking to add more books to my list. And if you read any of the books that I've mentioned in this video too, please let me know what you thought. I love discussing books, you know, we can chat about it in the comments. Please like this video if you want to see more book related content from me, or if you haven't already, follow me on TikTok because I post a lot of book content there, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any new videos, guys. Yeah, that's it. I will see you in another video super soon. Bye.